some noise for
Orange Juice in a Blunt.
Whoreson, the story of a ghetto pimp. Honey, you hear me? If he goes south, they might beat his goddamn ass if them hillbillies feel like it. You know what I mean? I stared at her closely, then continued. That's why I say this. When a poor Jew starts climbing, baby, he knows he has one strike against him already, you dig? Just because he's a Jew. Now I want you to look me in the eye and tell me, do you really believe a young Jew boy who was raised in a cold water flat, rats running all over the motherfucking place, will intentionally go all out of his way to marry a woman with 2 strikes against her? Not 1 like he got, but 2. Do you really believe he would? I stared at her, as though she was losing her mind. She held her head and staggered over to the couch and sat down. I just don't know, Whoreson. I really don't. What you say may be true, and then again, it may not. She dropped her head. Okay, then, baby, just think about this and try to answer it for me. I went on, realizing I had her going. If you think I'm lying, why don't you go with me this evening, and I'll show you damn near every white boy we see who's really pimping. And I mean pimping, with white girls and black ones, is Jewish. I stared at her intently. I just told her one of the damnedest lies. If she asked me to prove it, I didn't have the faintest idea where to find any white pimps at, let alone any Jewish ones. She jumped up and ran over and hit me in the chest with her small fists. I don't care, she screamed. You'll know better. All you want me for is my money, too. She was crying and screaming. I grabbed her arm and pulled her into the bedroom. I held her as I opened up the dresser drawer and removed my bank book. I pushed her on the bed and tossed it in her lap. She stared at it dumbly. Open it, goddamn you! I screamed. I should have got an Oscar for my acting ability. I grabbed her and opened the book, making her see where I had close to $25,000 in the bank. She stared at the figures, not really believing her own eyes. The tears stopped flowing as she tried to understand what she was seeing. She had known I had money in the bank, but by no stretch of the imagination would she have believed such a large figure. Now, do you still believe I want you just for your money? I asked slowly. I sat down and pulled her in my arms. She was still shook up. But Whoreson, she managed to say before I interrupted. But hell, I said and kissed her. It's your choice now, baby. Either you want a black man, or it's really true that you done got color-struck and you won't be satisfied unless you get your own white owl. I was dealing the matter now from the bottom of the deck, and I didn't believe she was fast enough to catch on. She tried to deny it. Whoreson, you know that ain't true. Prove it, baby, I said flatly, and pushed her back on the bed. Before she realized it, I had her out of her blouse and was working on her skirt. I kissed her around the neck as she tried to stop my searching hands. Please, Whoreson, please. Not like this, she managed to say. I found the zipper on her skirt and opened the button over it. With one smooth motion, I removed skirt and half-slip. She glanced down at herself surprised. I had her undressed down to her panties and bra. "Stop, Whoreson, stop!" She started to squirm, but I pinned one of her arms behind her head while lying on the other one. Without allowing her time to think, I pushed one side of her bra up and stared down at her one small breast. Quickly, I covered it with my mouth, slowly releasing her arm as I felt her struggle cease. "Please, Whoreson, please. Don't do this to me." "Not like this." Her pleading was in vain. I could feel her hand on the back of my head as I slowly ran my tongue around her tiny nipple, making it harden. Her breathing became louder and louder. I removed her pants slowly, kissing her navel as I went down. She tried to close her legs, but it was only her last resort against the inevitable. When I mounted her, I had to force an entry because of her tightness. She cried out in pain. I kissed the salty teardrops from her eyelids as the wonderful discovery of her virginity dawned on me. Later, I made love to her slowly and tenderly, helping her over her awkwardness until she finally realized the beauty of lovemaking. She lay in my arms, cuddled up tightly, happy and satisfied. As I lay back and stared at the ceiling, a feeling of tenderness came over me. For once in my life, I knew the meaning of the word love.